You just never know. You just never know. Robin Grieve.
Thank you very much, Madam Contest Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, it was frightening, it was chilling, it was heart-stopping. And it happened on one dark morning several years ago. I was awakened by this ghastly sound, my alarm clock. I was dairy farming in those days and it was 5 AM and I had to get up and milk my cows. That's what I did every morning. And this particular morning was just like every other morning until it happened. And after that, and since that day, it's become the day that I realised the true meaning of those words. You just never know what is going to happen next. Out of bed, I pulled back the curtains and there was Venus. The planet, not the god. My wife Rosemary was almost awake. Look, I said, it's the light of Venus shining brightly outside our bedroom window. Venus is the Roman goddess of love and fertility. And I really don't have to leave for another 15 minutes. She looked at me, and I could tell by the warm, welcoming expression that was absent from her face that I'd be leaving the house early that morning. And so I was, as I opened up the door, I stepped outside and I took a breath of the morning air. And that's when it happened. From out of the silence of the pre-dawn came a sound that caused me to stop dead in my tracks. For it was a sound that had no place been heard on a dairy farm in Wongaray, New Zealand. I heard the nerve-jangling roar of a lion. Now, for me, this didn't pose a problem. I didn't have any lions on my farm. In fact, as far as I knew, there were no lions in New Zealand. I quite quickly found myself back inside the house. I really needed Rosemary now. I needed her to help me make sense of it all. There are no lions in New Zealand. Then all of a sudden there is one. All I could do was imagine the headlines in the next day's newspaper. Man mauled to death by the only lion in New Zealand. His wife said, well, yes, he heard the lion, but because we don't have lions in our country, he went out there anyway. I will miss him so. He was such a good man. I really just wish he hadn't left 15 minutes early that morning. So what did I do about this lion? For there was a lion. I got on the phone and I quickly learned that across the valley, nearby Zion Wildlife Gardens, a lion park that I'd known nothing about until that morning, had that night moved in its first lions. Would you believe it? This was a relief, of course, but the experience was unsettling, and as such it taught me something. It taught me, you just never know what is going to happen next. I also realised that if it can happen to me that morning, it can happen to any one of us, at any time. Granted, it probably won't be another lion, but it could be something unexpected. A phone call, the phone rings every day, as it does for everyday stuff. That's what we expect. But we don't expect it to be life-changing stuff, just as we don't expect to hear lions outside our house. But it happens. The phone call that causes us to stop dead in our tracks is the one that brings us news that is so marvellous, so great, so wonderful, we'd never expect it. Or news so great, so horrible, it's too unbearable to even consider. And just as it could be a phone call that reminds us of life's twists, so too could it be in the dead of night. There's a thunderous knock on the door, and it's the police, and your teenage son isn't home yet. And the time it takes you to get to the door, you've taken yourself to that place of dread. You know the worst has happened. You barely have the strength to open the door and to look at the policeman that you don't want to see so he can tell you the news that you don't want to hear. And you see your son standing by the policeman. Your son, this hairy, unkempt, shabby member of the family, is suddenly the most beautiful sight in the world. And you just can't wait to kill him. could be for every one of us here. Because life is uncertain. We see this every day, pleasant surprises, nasty shocks, hopes fulfilled, expectations dashed. Often hopes and expectations we did not even know we had. I expected silence. I got a lion. I hope to get home this afternoon, as I'm sure do you. But whether we will get our wish or not, we can't know that now, nor should it even concern us, because these uncertainties are part of life. In fact, they make life what it is, for they are as much its wonder as they are its tragedy. Yes, of course it'll be tragic if any one of us doesn't make it home today, but equally it'll be wonderful when we do. So celebrate it. Let's celebrate getting home. Kiss your partner, pet the cat, do whatever you have to do. Life's uncertainties can be cruel, we know that. But more often than not, they bring us joy. And we need to remind ourselves about that. Embrace the uncertainty of life by celebrating those moments that were never guaranteed. Getting home, reading a lover, a nice surprise. Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, when we celebrate those little things, do you know what we're doing? We're celebrating life. And that's all we need to do. But that is what we must do. Because as I found out on that dark morning, you just never know what's going to happen